You know, in the history of the NFL, there are teams that win championships, and then there are teams that build dynasties. But only a handful truly change the game itself. And maybe, just maybe, only one team created a true empire. An empire built on pure genius, precision, and a whole lot of gold. We're talking, of course, about the San Francisco 49ers. So that raises the big question, right? How does a team like that, a team so incredibly dominant, just lose its way? What happens when that spark of innovation that made you special just fizzles out? And maybe more importantly, what does it take to claw your way all the way back to the top? To really get a handle on their modern story, we've got to go back. We have to see how that dynasty was built in the first place. All right, let's set the stage. Because for the first, 35 years or so of their existence, the San Francisco 49ers, well, they weren't an empire, not even close. Honestly, they were kind of an afterthought, a team defined by almosts and what-ifs. They were founded way back in 1946, one of the first big pro teams on the West Coast, which is cool. But real success, it was always just out of reach. I mean, get this. In 1957, they have this devastating playoff loss where they blow a 20-point lead. Ouch. Then in the early 70s, they finally seem to figure it out. They win 3 straight division titles, only to get knocked out of the playoffs by the exact same team, the Dallas Cowboys, every single year. Can you imagine the frustration? It was just this cycle of heartbreak that hit rock bottom in 1979 with a dismal 2-win season. The franchise was just lost. But, as it turns out, that's right when everything was about to change. See, the 49ers didn't just need a new coach. They didn't just need a new quarterback. No. They needed something much bigger. They needed a whole new philosophy. They needed an idea so revolutionary it could reinvent the game of football as they knew it. And that idea was a West Coast offense. Now, to understand why this was such a big deal, you have to remember what the NFL was like back then. It was all about bruising, smash-mouth football, right? 3 yards in a cloud of dust. This was the total opposite. Instead of brute force, it was about precision. Short, quick, high-percentage passes. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. A rhythmic, surgical attack that would stretch a defense side to side, and then bam, your receiver has the ball in open space with tons of room to run after the catch. It was brilliant. In a league full of guys playing checkers, the 49ers were about to start playing chess. Okay, so you have this brilliant system, but a system is just an idea, right? You need the people to run it. And in this case, you needed 2 very specific people. First, you needed the architect. That was Bill Walsh, this genius offensive mind they hired from Stanford in '79. And second, you needed the apprentice, the field general. And in the 3rd round of that same year's draft, Walsh found him, an undersized, kind of overlooked QB from Notre Dame, a guy named Joe Montana. And together, they were about to build an empire. And oh, what an empire it was. Seriously, the 1980s didn't just belong to the 49ers. The 49ers defined the 1980s. That red and gold, it just became synonymous with excellence, with genius, with winning. Every dynasty has a starting point, a moment where everything clicks. For the 49ers, it was one single legendary play. January 10th, 1982. NFC Championship game, and who are they playing? Of course, it's their old rivals, the Dallas Cowboys. They're down by 6, clock is ticking, they're backed up against their own end zone. Montana scrambles, he's looking, he throws it high into the end zone, and Dwight Clark just leaps out of nowhere. It's the catch, that one single play. Man, it didn't just win a game, it launched an entire decade of pure dominance. Just 2 weeks after the catch, they won their first Super Bowl, and then they won another, and another. All in all, between 1981 and 1994, the San Francisco 49ers hoisted the Lombardi Trophy 5 times. 5. It was an absolutely incredible run of success that without a doubt made them the team of the 80s. So how did they keep it going for so long? I mean, most dynasties fall apart the second their star quarterback leaves, right? But not the 49ers. No, they did something incredible. They just handed the keys to the kingdom from one Hall of Famer, the impossibly cool Joe Comeback Kid Montana, to another Hall of Famer, the fiery athletic perfectionist Steve Young. It was this seamless transition, this unbroken chain that was really the secret sauce. It's what kept the dynasty rolling and got them that 5th ring in '94. And look, it's so important to remember, it wasn't just about the quarterbacks. This roster was absolutely stacked with legends. I mean, you had the GOAT, the greatest receiver of all time, Jerry Rice. You had maybe the most feared defensive player ever in Ronnie Lott. Innovative guys like running back Roger Craig. The whole team was it was a collection of absolute titans. But you know how the saying goes, all empires fall. And for the 49ers, the end wasn't some slow, graceful decline. Oh no, it was a sudden, jarring collapse. It was like a switch was flipped, and the franchise found itself completely lost, wandering in a long, dark wilderness. You can point to the exact moment it happened. 1999. A devastating hit ends Steve Young's career. And just like that unbroken chain of Hall of Fame quarterbacks, it was shattered. The team immediately had its first losing season in almost 20 years. The magic was just gone. And what came next was just chaos, pure instability. The organization that used to be the gold standard for consistency, it became a total revolving door for head coaches. You had Mariucci, then Erickson, then Nolan, then Singletary. It got so bad that later on, guys like Jim Tomsula and Chip Kelly each lasted only one season. That incredible identity that Bill Walsh had so carefully built, it was completely and utterly lost. But here's the thing about empires. Their spirit is hard to completely extinguish. And starting in the 2010s, a new generation began that long, hard climb back to the top. The goal? That elusive 6th championship ring. And man, has that quest been absolutely agonizing, just brutal. Under coach Jim Harbaugh in 2012, they get to the Super Bowl and lose by 3 points. Then under Kyle Shanahan, they get back in 2019 and again in 2023, only to suffer 2 more crushing defeats to the exact same team, the Kansas City Chiefs. Think about that. 3 trips to the Super Bowl in a little over a decade. And all 3 times, they came home with nothing. And yet, here they are. They're always in the mix. They've built this powerful new identity. And it's all built around the mind of Kyle Shanahan, who, by the way, comes directly from that Bill Walsh coaching tree. He's taken the West Coast offense and supercharged it for today's NFL. It's all about constant motion, a punishing running game, and then bam, a soul-crushing play-action pass. And this new machine is powered by superstars like Christian McCaffrey and Nick Bosa, and led by, of all people, Brock Purdy, the literal last pick in the draft, Mr. Irrelevant, who has turned into one of the most unbelievable stories in the entire league. So that's where we are today. The 49ers are right back at the top, one of the league's absolute elite teams. But they're haunted, right? Haunted by the ghosts of their incredible past, but also by the sting of these recent heartbreaking failures. They carry the weight of 5 rings, but also the pain of being so close to a 6th. And that leaves us with the ultimate question. Can this new version of the Empire finally finish the job?